Hi, my name is Dr. Padilla. I'm a professor in computer science and psychology, and I've been a professor for over 5 years now. I want to talk about a topic that I think is key to success in PhD programs, and that is figuring out how to delegate and automate various tasks. Now, this can be kind of an uncomfortable conversation because you might think that you are supposed to do everything, and you're going to learn that you're going to have so many responsibilities and expectations on you that are pulling you in all of these different directions, and you might be stressed and you don't know how to cope, okay? My solution for you is to identify which tasks you can delegate and automate. In this video, I'm going to give you strategies for how to figure out how to do that effectively. So let's jump on in. All right, so I would like to introduce you to the Eisenhower Matrix. This is a matrix that can kind of help you unpack when you can automate or offload certain things and when you need to prioritize things. So let's take a look at what it is. The way that this matrix is organized is there's two columns. One is urgent and one is non-urgent, and then there's two rows. One is important and one is not important. And you can identify where your tasks fall along this matrix. The first quadrant is urgent and important. And these are things that you actually need to do. So these are things that are time locked. They have major consequences on your life. You absolutely need to do them in a timely fashion. If the task qualifies as urgent and important, it goes in this quadrant, and you do it yourself and you do it to a high ability. Now moving to the upper right quadrant, this is where something is not urgent but important. This is something that absolutely has stakes. It's important that you do it well and effectively, but there's no real set deadline here. So this is a task that I want you to try to schedule. You should still do it yourself, but you can schedule it in the future and break it up into small chunks where over time you can complete portions of it, but you don't need to do it immediately. Now getting to the second row of the matrix, this is where the fun stuff comes in. This is where things are not important, and they can be not important but urgent, okay? This is the category of things you want to delegate and automate. There are so many things you're going to be faced with as a PhD student and in your career that are not important, but they kind of need to be done quickly. So this is things like responding to emails in a effective manner. So what happens is I get dozens of emails every day, and the answer is usually a yes, no, or there's some qualifying information that needs to go in there. It is urgent, I need to respond, but it's not important how beautiful those emails are. I just need to get the information across quickly. So what I do is I use ChatGPT heavily for those emails, and I'll say, please write an email that says, thank you for this invitation. Unfortunately, I cannot commit at this time. And I'll usually speak that into ChatGPT. It writes in an email, boom, I shoot that away. I don't proofread it because it's not important. If there are errors or mistakes, it is not important. I would never, ever use ChatGPT in that way for a research paper because that is very, very important that it's accurate. But for an email, it's totally fine, right? Along similar veins is there are dozens of forms that you have to fill out in your PhD program. Things like describe the research project you're working on to get this summer funding, or fill in the job requirements for this thing that you're potentially applying for, stuff like that. Those forms don't need to be perfect. They just need to be done when they need to be done. So that's another situation where you might automate something because you just need to get it done quickly, and how precise and effective it is doesn't really matter. Most of those form fields, no one's really reading anyway. There just needs to be some information in there for it to be processed moving forward. So I'm sure that you've guessed that for automation, I rely very heavily on technology, of course, right? I use ChatGPT and large language models to automate lots of communication. Because it falls into this particular category. There are other ways to automate things. If you have any type of software that can automatically do things for you, I think that's really great. Oftentimes when I'm doing things like building courses, I might set up automated announcements. So those go out automatically. They need to be done in a timely fashion, but I don't have to spend as much energy in a detailed way writing all of those out. So what about delegation? When do you get to delegate? Again, this is a situation where it's not important. If it was, you would do it yourself, but it is urgent. So think about delegating in terms of building little teams of people that can support you, particularly when they get something out of it themselves. So delegating to someone higher in the status above you can be challenging because they're not going to get much out of it. But maybe you're delegating to an undergraduate researcher or a master's student because they're getting some experience or exposure in terms of doing research, in terms of working with the department, in terms of getting face time with you. Those are all very valuable things. So the things that you could consider delegating are, maybe there's some paper processing that has to happen. Maybe there's some kind of busy technical work that has to be done at a certain time, but you don't need to do it yourself. It just needs to be time locked. In my field, we have lots of coding of our data that needs to happen by a certain time. We go and look over the effectiveness of it, but we tend to delegate those tasks to master's students or undergraduate students. Think of it as anything that you can allow someone to do where they're getting some type of benefit from it. You don't want to exploit people, but you can ensure that that kind of team of people is successfully completing something at a particular time, and it's not important enough that it needs all of your mental energy. Try to delegate those tasks. And the last quadrant is things that are not important and not urgent. And those are the ones that you want to get rid of. You don't prioritize these at all, you just delete them. So this is all the stuff that, you're getting asked to do, but you should have said no initially. If you've committed to something, do it, okay? But you can look at this quadrant to determine if you should be engaging in these activities at all. If it is not important and not urgent, don't do it, my friend. Free up some time for other things that are important to your life, your health, and your happiness overall. So when you're thinking about delegating, I think the best way to figure out how to do this, especially if you don't just have people that are directly reporting to you that you can kind of offload tasks to, is to build teams. And build teams where you have skill sets that support one another. When you're delegating, you're not just giving people remedial tasks, but you're giving them things for which they would be better suited than you, and vice versa. You want to take on the things that you'd be better suited based on your skills than them. So you can build these teams of people where you can work together and delegate the different tasks so everyone's working on something that fits with their skill set. Finding those collaborations can be hard, and that's a skill that you learn over time. I have lots of thoughts about the best ways to build collaborations, but I would recommend trying them out. Doing these low stakes projects or little group things to see if you like working with someone. I think the most strong indicator of the success of a collaboration is if you enjoy being around that person. You want your life to be happy, right? Academia should be fun and enjoyable. And if you surround yourself with people that you enjoy spending time with, your life will be so much better. So I think I would prioritize that over other things. Ideally, you want the people you enjoy to have various skill sets. That would be ideal. But I think just having an enjoyable time really goes a long way. I mostly talked about using the Eisenhower Matrix to prioritize work stuff. I think you should do it for your personal life too. And the way you can think about something being urgent is it urgent for my health and happiness? Because there's some things are and some things aren't, right? You need to eat food, right? That is urgent and that's time sensitive. And ideally you want to eat food that gives you nutrients and makes you happy to some degree. So looking at your personal life, I think you should think about what you need to prioritize and do urgently versus things you can delegate or automate. So things that you can delegate in your personal life include maybe you hire a gardener or something if you have a house, right? That is sort of delegating to someone else. It, of course, requires paying money, but maybe that's something that you can offload and get some of your time back to do the urgent things for your health and happiness. Likewise, if you have roommates, maybe you can delegate some of the responsibilities that have been put on you more so than others to ensure that you have the time to do the urgent things that really support your well-being. In closing, identifying what your priorities are and how you currently spend your time to help you figure out what you can automate and delegate in your personal life and in your research life will really help you balance all of these conflicting things that you are expected to do. I think embracing the PhD journey as a marathon rather than a sprint is a really critical idea, and hopefully you've gained some tips that can help you do that. If you like this video, consider hitting the like button and subscribe for more content on academic success. Take care.